Hey guys, it's Mr. Starkey. Hope you guys are okay. We're going to continue our study of the unit, What the Bible Says About Pacifism and War and Christians Serving in the Military. In this unit, we're also going to talk about what the Bible says about gun control and the death penalty. You guys are doing a good job on these assignments. Again, the due dates are flexible. If you need a little more time, just communicate with me. Send me an email and let me know what's going on, and I'll be glad to work with you, okay? But I'm really enjoying the answers that you're giving on some of these topics. I especially like hearing when you find the topic interesting. Tell me about that, because that kind of encourages me to keep teaching these kinds of topics, okay? So we've already talked about what the Bible says about pacifism, the Old Testament and the New Testament. And we talked about what the Bible says about war. Now, in this topic, we're going to be talking about what the Bible says about a Christian serving in the military. The Bible contains plenty of information about serving in the military, while many of the Bible's references to the military are only analogies. Remember, we talked about this in our lesson on what the Bible says about war. We said that the Apostle Paul would use battle armor in Ephesians 6 to describe the Christian's armor, like the helmet of salvation and the shield of faith and the sword of the Spirit and so forth. Paul also used the military as an analogy for, we're like Christian soldiers, we're in a war, those kinds of things. So a lot of the Bible's references to the military are only analogies, but there are several verses directly related to the question of what does the Bible say about the military. So the Bible doesn't specifically state whether or not someone should serve in the military. It's a personal choice, at least here in the United States for now. You have a choice if you want to join the military. But one thing's for sure from the Bible, Christians can be assured that being a soldier is highly respected throughout the scriptures, and that serving in the military is consistent with a biblical worldview. In other words, you don't have to compromise your beliefs and your convictions as a follower of Christ to be in the military. In fact, it's a wonderful place for you to be able to share your faith and live out your Christian worldview. In the New Testament, remember we talked about this when we talked about what the Bible says about war. Jesus was really impressed, your PowerPoint should say was impressed by a Roman centurion. Remember this in Matthew chapter 8. A centurion was an officer who was in charge of 100 soldiers. That's where he gets the name centurion. And this Roman officer approached Jesus, and you remember the story that he had asked Jesus to heal his servant who was at his home in another city. And when Jesus said, okay, I'll go do it, the Roman centurion said, well, you really don't have to go. He said, I'm a military officer in charge of a lot of men, and when I tell one to do this or to do that, they jump and do it. And you, Lord, are the master of everything. He indicated to Jesus. So if you'll just command it, it can happen from here. You don't even have to go. And of course, Jesus was kind of blown away by this Roman centurion's faith. And so Jesus said to everybody around him, I've never seen faith like this in all of Israel. And interestingly, this guy wasn't even Jewish. He was a Gentile. He was a Roman soldier. And but the point in this is simply to say Jesus did not denounce or criticize his career as a soldier. He didn't say, oh, and by the way, you have great faith, but if you're really going to serve me, you need to get out of the military and become a pacifist or something like that. So Jesus did not denounce his career as a military guy. In fact, there are several centurions mentioned in the New Testament who were praised as Christians, as God-fearers, men of good character. Let me show you 2 or 3 examples. You may know about this. When Jesus died on the cross, after this soldier who was responsible, one of those responsible for actually executing Jesus, nailing him to the cross, after he saw all that Jesus had done and said during those 6 hours hanging on the cross, God really moved in his heart. And this centurion in Matthew 27:54, he says, truly this was the Son of God. Strong faith. Also, there's a man named Cornelius in the book of Acts chapter 10 who wanted to know God. And this is a very interesting story because by this time in Acts chapter 10, the gospel had primarily only been preached to the Jewish people. Well, Cornelius was again, a Gentile in the Roman army, but he wanted to know God. And so God appeared to him in a vision. And you can read about Acts chapter 10 yourself, all the details. It's fascinating. Long story short, God sent Peter, the disciple Peter, to share the gospel with this Roman military guy who wanted to know God. And by the way, it's a great example that we've talked about before in Bible class. When someone really wants to know God, even if they don't yet have the gospel, maybe have never even heard of Jesus, if they really want to know God, God will do whatever it takes to get the gospel to them, whether it means crashing an airplane and parachuting a missionary in, or speaking to them in a dream or a vision, like was the case with Cornelius, and is the case as we're hearing by the thousands coming from Muslims who are in countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan where the gospel is forbidden to go, but God sees in their heart these Muslims want to know Christ, so God speaks to them in visions and in dreams. So anyway, Cornelius in Acts 10 is another example of a military guy who God honored, who wanted to know the Lord. And then in Acts chapter 21, Paul was preaching and a riot occurred, which wasn't that unusual for Paul. It seemed like whenever he preached, either a revival happened or a riot happened. And in this case, a riot occurred and people were charging him to kill him. And a centurion, a Roman soldier, stepped in front of Paul and protected him and carried him away to safety. So again, soldiering and so forth, being in the military, is praised in the Bible as something that's honorable. So the places and the titles may have changed over time, but our armed forces should be just as valued as the centurions of the Bible, right? The position of soldier was highly respected. The Christian men and women who serve their country with character and dignity and honor can rest assured that the civic duty they perform is approved and respected by God. So those who honorably serve in the military, they really do deserve our respect and gratitude. I know several of you are interested in possibly joining the military, whether it be ROTC or going into full-time military service, or the reserve or the National Guard, whatever it is. Just know that you can do so, and God approves, God honors, and it's a wonderful place for you to share your faith and to be a light for the Lord, and to live out your Christian values of guarding and protecting your country and your family and others, and serving the Lord in that honorable way. Now, I have some questions that I'd like for you to answer, and here they are. You can use Google to do some research to find the answers to these, and as always, just write down your answers in the body of your email, or if it's easier, you can type it out and attach a document to me via email. Number one, what are the 6 branches of the U.S. military? Now, my guess is you could probably name 3 or 4, maybe 5, but there's actually 6. And the 6th one is brand new. So number 2, what's the oldest branch? Number 3, what's the newest branch? Number 4, which branch is usually first on the ground in combat situations? Number 5, which branch maintains security in the air and on the sea? Number 6, which branch is responsible for maritime duties, from ensuring safe and lawful commerce to performing rescue missions in severe conditions? Number 7, which branch focuses on air power? Number 8, which branch defends U.S. interests on land, in the air, and from orbit? Hint, hint, that's the newest branch of the U.S. military. And then I'm curious to see how you're going to answer number 9. If you wanted to serve in the U.S. military, and some of you do, and some of you may not be interested in that, and that's okay. But let's just say if you wanted to serve in the U.S. military, which branch would you choose, and why would you choose that branch? Now, before I let you go, some of you may know that I served in the U.S. military. I served in the U.S. Army Ohio National Guard back in the 1980s, and I've got a couple of pictures to show you. Look at that handsome guy right there. This is from 1984 to 1988. I was about a year or 2 older than you guys are right now. I think I was about 19. And these are pictures of me when I was in my basic training and advanced individual training at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. My company was called Charlie Company, and my advanced individual training was in the field of combat engineer. My primary duty was to construct bridges and demolition. So I would build bridges to help our soldiers march across and bring their tanks and their equipment across. And I would also work with demolitions. I was trained to blow up bridges and also to lay landmines and also dismantle different types of bombs and mines. So that's what a combat engineer does. And we usually would fight alongside as infantrymen along with the other infantrymen. So in one hand we carried a weapon, and in the other hand we carried the tools we needed to help build bridges and to blow up stuff and to dismantle mines. So I was honored to get to serve in our U.S. military, and I learned a lot. It helped me to grow up a whole lot during those years that I got to serve in that way. And it helped me to grow up a lot as a person, emotionally, mentally, and especially spiritually, to try to live for the Lord in that kind of a situation. Here's one last picture of me. One of my honors in our company was I was chosen to be what's called the guidon bearer. That flag that you see me holding there is called the guidon in military terms. Remember now, this is the 1980s. You can see the people standing behind me dressed like it's in the 1980s. And this was on our graduation day, and that's why I've got on my formal uniform there. And my job was to march in front of our company as we would be marching around. And the guy, you know, I was holding the colors of our company, Charlie Company. And it was an honor to be chosen to do that, but I was primarily chosen because I was one of the tallest guys. I was about 6'2", and I guess since I stood taller than a lot of the other guys, they wanted me to hold the flag, because obviously the flag would be easier to see if a tall guy is holding it. So fortunately, if we ever went into battle, I did not have to carry that. I could carry a weapon, because that would be the downside of being a tall guy carrying a flag. You'd be the first target, right? So, but when we were marching in formation, that was my job, and it was an honor to do so. All right, well, I look forward to seeing the answers that you guys email me. And again, let's work together, okay? If you need a little extra time on these assignments, just communicate with me, okay? Don't let 3 or 4 assignments or 3 or 4 days go by without me hearing from you, okay? Just shoot me an email and I'll work with you. Listen, I'm super proud of you guys. These are strange times, aren't they? But we're learning some interesting things, and the Lord is with us. I'm praying for you guys. I miss you. Can't wait to see you face to face one of these days, Lord willing. And if you have any problems or concerns, or if there's something I can pray for you about, let me know in your email to me, okay? And also, as a side note, as much as I'm enjoying you guys answering these questions and learning this material about what the Bible says about war and pacifism and Christians serving in the military and so forth, I love to hear just what you think of the topics, like if you find these topics interesting and insightful, those kinds of things, okay? Love you guys. You're doing a great job. Bye-bye.